I'm Amy Coulter, and I'm here on my free time because, well, first I want to say I concur with everything that everybody has said to this point, and I personally feel threatened, again, by another, what is made to be a very complex issue by our government. But I'm here to say, basically, if my government tells me something is good for me, and if a corporation tells me something is good for me, I believe the opposite. And this applies in this case. And I have studied the issue, many issues on the surface, in order to secure access to clean air, food, and water, and security. And I'm here not to talk to my government or the representatives, because I know they lie. They're in cahoots with big corporations. I'm here to speak to you people, you good people. And as the woman said earlier, it is time for the people's movement. It is time for us to talk to one another and explain the lies that our government is delivering to us, because we must stop this use of pesticides and chemicals. And as the European Union has declared that they will not allow any company to use any type of untested ingredient in any product or food that they allow in, GMO or otherwise, until the company has bared the burden of proof showing that it is completely harmless. Until we take that on, this is what we face year in, year out, until, like the frogs in the slow boiling water, we are cooked, people. So now you add to that the fires that are burning. What kind of air quality do you think we're going to get bathed in all of this pesticide, untested secret ingredients? Yes, we're feeling threatened, and yes, we look you square in the eye and say, we will not take it, we will stand up, and we will hold you all accountable. And in fact, if this government comes down because of it, I personally don't care, because our government has failed us. And remember, people, you cannot trust your government, and you cannot trust big corporations until they show some ethics.
I don't know what I can say after that, but I agree with all the previous speakers, and I had a question about how much this is costing, because I'd like to find that out. And next, we all know we're in difficult economic times, and I interviewed some of the Department of Food and Agriculture Department workers, and I understand that they're threatened layoffs if they don't have this program. And so it seemed a little bit like there was a student who was able to,
Can you speak up to the mic?
Okay. There was someone else who said something a little like this about a program for students where the Department of Agriculture educated the students and the residents so that they could do something that was more holistic and reasonable and create better land conditions so that you wouldn't have the pest. And so what I thought is that the Department of Health and Department of Food and Agriculture, they need jobs too, and so they could be training and educating farmers and residents and college students, because college students in California are going to have a very difficult time, and so that the residents and farmers could look on their own properties, but the college students during their vacations, they could come into these areas where you've identified, so-called identified the pest. And so it says like within a 1.5 mile radius or a 200 meters or something like that. And so these plots, the students could have teams, and they could come in, and it says people would come back every 3 or 6 months or something, whatever the time is. It would be done manually. You'd go in, and then you'd have a check to make sure you actually have one of the pests, and you do different things. You might not have to eradicate them. You might want to watch them and see what happens. You'd be studying them and determining the wisest thing to do. And you wouldn't be harming anybody, but there would be jobs. The stimulus money would go to some of these people in the Department of Agriculture that want to work, that need to work, and they'd be doing something productive instead of these terrible things that we're hearing and feeling are going to happen to us. And the college students would have some way to be able to pay for their education, because it's going to get very difficult in California. Thank you.
Lindsay Burek, and I'm a resident of both Berkeley and West Berlin. I've in the past spoken on this, and I had hoped it would go away. It's just morphed into a different form, unfortunately. And it's probably one of the worst cases of make work that I've seen. It benefits a very small number of contractors at great cost to the citizens and potential health of our children and our future. It's somewhat similar to some of our invasions of foreign countries under a false premise that benefit a small number of contractors at great cost to many citizens. It's comparable to that. The EIR is extremely flawed in the no project alternative or the no treatment alternative. And in that area, you've had much more credible non-vested interest scientists build models, mathematical computer models about the spread of LBAM. And they, have a very different scenario than the CDF scientists and contracted scientists. It's vested interest versus non-vested interest. These people, like James Carey, have done this on their own time. And so that, that area of the EIR is the one to attack legally, I believe. And we all live in an infested area right now. If you look at the CDFA maps and you look, we're a prime area for this type of moth, which, by the way, when you find a moth, it's only about 1 in 50 that turns out to be that moth when they're captured in their traps, and they actually do the DNA testing. And we know we have large gardens here, I do, and I have them in Marin also, and my friends in Santa Cruz have substantial agriculture. The only problem for them is CDFA and the quarantine. It's not the moth, it's the bureaucracy that they fear. So those are my comments, and thank you very much.
Thank you.
My name is Melinda Leifold. I'm a resident of Inverness, California. I live next to the Point Reyes National Seashore, a forested area. Most of the water, all our drinking water in Inverness comes from groundwater. I mean, not wells, but springs and streams. I have an obvious concern with if there's aerial spraying, aside from the fact that there are thousands and tens of thousands of other species which could be affected by it, the water itself would receive the spray. We drink that water, and also the aquatic animals and the insects. It's known definitely that they were affected in the Santa Cruz spring. So I would question that alternative. I would question the whole program. I am highly suspicious that corporations are actually pretty much running our governance at this point in time. And that is the description of a fascist regime. And yet there seems to be a widespread belief that we live in a democracy. And I would like to actually congratulate us for all being here and participating in democracy today. I'm not going to take any more time. Thank you.
So my name is Lucinda Olney, and I'm a Berkeley resident, and I'm also a nurse. And I just have a little sort of vignette. This morning I went to the pharmacy to pick up a prescription medicine for myself, and it came with the sheet of paper that we all see, with information about the medicine, including common uses, how to use it, cautions and possible side effects, actions to take if an overdose is suspected. So for my information, I asked the pharmacist if experiments are done on all the medications they dispense to ensure safety. Oh yes, she said, we wouldn't be allowed to release them unless controlled experiments have been done over time and they pass certain tests. So I asked her, so in a way, if you give me this information sheet, which I ought to read before taking my medicine, this is like informed consent. And after I read it, I have a choice whether to risk the side effects of the drug or not. Oh yes, she said, it is like informed consent. Now, the state's proposing aerial and ground spray on public and private properties of pheromone-based pesticides, permethrin splat, BT, and spinosad, as well as predator wasp release and sterile moths. I'd like to ask, what controlled experiments have been carried out as to the effects any of these ingredients have had on human subjects? Over what length of time? What controlled experiments have been done on these ingredients as a total plan? On humans and animals? I'd like to say I asked the pharmacist to also print out while I was there one of the information sheets on permethrin, which is used as a cream and a lotion on lice. And one of the cautions, just as an example, one of the cautions is avoid getting this medicine in your eyes or on the inside of your nose and mouth. And then in case of an overdose, contact your local poison control center or emergency room immediately.
30 seconds.
Oh, sorry. Okay. For the state to go ahead and propose plans as stated above amounts to dosing humans with pesticides without foreknowledge, without their informed consent, without their having full disclosure as to possible side effects and harm, and without having a choice to be exposed or not. And this is very irresponsible. And lastly, none of my neighbors know how to identify a light brown apple moth. And most of my neighbors don't use pesticides. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm here to basically represent myself. I'm from Vietnam. During the 60s, they brought tons of defoliants to my country. And a lot of companies profited from it. And it was said that this is only to defoliate the jungles of Southeast Asia so they can find the gorilla, the Viet Cong. But it did much more damage than that. It was basically ecocide, and it's still affecting generations of young people later on, born with all kinds of birth defects and terminal illnesses such as cancer and inflammation of the liver such as hepatitis and diabetes. And it's affecting the genetic pool too. Children are born that have encephalitis or missing limbs or deformed limbs and no eyes. So, based on how they lied to the American soldiers that went over there and they lied to my people, we cannot trust the corporations that benefit from making this poison because we don't know what the long-term consequences of these chemicals are. Well, we do know what it did to the people in Monterey and Santa Cruz. About 600 people had to go to the emergency room, and so I remember hearing mainly they had respiratory diseases such as bronchitis, but we don't know for sure what the long-term effects are. All I know is some of the chemicals they'll be using, permethrin splat, other pheromone-based pesticides, spinosad, predator wasp release, sterile moth release. This is tampering with the environment. I don't think anything good will come of this at all. What little harm the moth, the light brown apple moth, will do, and it's only a leaf-growing moth, I would much prefer what that moth does than what all these chemicals will do to my body and your body.
My name is Daria Schwartzfield. I represent myself and all the other people that can't make it here tonight because they're busy dealing with their lives and working and such. And I can't believe we're here again, and this process is faulty, along with the EIR and everything else that everyone has said here. Once again, the last time I was here, I did this show of hands of members of the public who are here in support of this dangerous, health, risky program. Members of the public, show of hands, please. Anybody in support of this program? Raise your hand. So much has already been said over the years that it's been, that this has been getting fought. The people that work for CDFA, you people are no different from us. You are no less vulnerable to the risks, the health risks that we are vulnerable to when these toxins are released into the atmosphere, into our water and air and I'm not prepared with written comments. I'm just so angry and upset that we're still here doing this when it is so obvious the thousands and thousands of people who have been active in opposing this chemical onslaught into the environment, that we're all of you, all the people that work for CDFA are just as vulnerable to. And please be with your consciences tonight when you go to sleep, and really, it's more than just a paycheck. You know, this is all of our lives and our future's lives, our children, our grandchildren, generations into the future that will be affected, just like the last speaker said. And do whatever you can do to help yourselves, your families, and all of us do the right thing in opposing this very dangerous health risk to our society. Thank you. Thank you.
Hi, thank you. My name is Todd Butler. I live in Alameda. I'm with Stop the Spray Spay, but I'm here tonight primarily to speak on behalf of myself for my 2 children. I'm a single mother. I love my children very much. I believe that the EIR is fundamentally flawed. When my children have a difficult decision to make, I have them weigh the pros and cons in order to make a thoughtful, wise choice. I tell them that they must bear the consequences, good or ill, of any choice they make. So how about this? How about the CDFA be held responsible for the consequences of their choice? Honestly, if the CDFA were required to pay for the health care, burial costs, sick days, lost productivity, etc., I believe this whole program would be dropped. This supposed financial and agricultural nightmare from the LBAM has yet to be adequately proven. However, the well-documented health nightmares experienced by residents of Santa Cruz and Monterey, the financial nightmares experienced by quarantines imposed on nurseries, and the absolute mind boggle that comes from watching the CDFA manipulate the public with cherry-picked data is very real. Unfortunately, the CDFA's behavior reminds me of, say, R.J. Reynolds 50 years ago. Do you really want to be known as the biggest bully on the block? Thank you.
Thank you. I want to speak to you as an asthmatic and as a person who works outdoors 5 days a week. There is no way that I can protect myself. There is no way that the sites over 4 counties that I will work in will be protected. It is too much land. Are you prepared to compensate me? Are you, California Department of Agriculture, prepared to compensate me? Are you prepared to compensate all the organic farmers that you will spray? Are you? Yeah, are you? Have you thought about that? Do you not believe that that will happen? Is the state of California able, with the financial state that we are in? I cannot understand how this can happen if there's not money for anything else. How can this program happen? This is absurd! Are you prepared for all the people that will file for disability because of their health issues? I have right now 3 friends who have been diagnosed with cancer in the last 6 to 9 months. 2 of them have 0 money, 0 savings. It is not a pretty picture. Are you really ready to say all those other people with chemical sensitivities, chronic fatigue, Lyme, all the other floating things that fall in the cracks of the medical system are not going to be either filed for disability or a burden on our medical system that we will all pay for with our health insurance. Period. End of sentence. That is the only way it will happen. What do you think will happen to the cost of health insurance in California? It's all statistics, babe. It's all in the insurance statistics. I work with soil biology. That is a living thing. That is the fertility in the soil.
Yes.
You are going to kill it once a month? Are you going to pay for all my stuff?
30 seconds.
And that's not very many compared to the entire area. To restore that biology in that soil every month? Are you prepared to do that? These are living things. They may not have a voice, but they are there, and you better believe that your food's in that store because of them.
That's right. Time.
I wish you understood what you're doing, but you clearly do not have a clue. Father, forgive them. They know not what they do. That is all I can come to.
I'm a registered nurse from Oakland. I'm also a steering committee member of Stop the Spray East Bay, and I'm a member of California Nurses Association. These are questions that I would expect to be answered by the final EIR, and I want to give Nan Wishner, who's the chair emeritus of the Albany IBM Task Force, credit for many of these questions. Why does the draft EIR not comprehensively review the scientific, peer-reviewed evidence for the basic premises on which the whole program is based? That is, that LBAM is a threat, that eradication is necessary, and that eradication can succeed. What specific scientific studies and data does the California Department of Food and Agriculture have to support the claim that eradication is possible? Can you give specific examples where other moth species established over thousands of square miles that have many host plants have been successfully eradicated? What is CDFA's definition of what would constitute a successful eradication? What are the time frame and criteria for deciding whether eradication can be achieved, and if it cannot be achieved, for terminating the program? Why are we discussing eradication in California when it's not being considered in Hawaii, where the apple moth has been established for 100 years? If eradication were taken off the table, how would CDFA recommend controlling the apple moth in California? The draft EIR states in several places that the apple moth is spreading in California. Why would this spread be occurring despite the 2 years of quarantines and restrictions imposed by your department? To what extent have you expanded the numbers of traps, location of traps, and efficiency of trapping during these 2 years? How can you determine scientifically whether the increased finds of moths are due to these improvements in your protocol versus an actual increase in the geographic range of the moth? In other words, how do we know we are not simply delineating the established range of the moth rather than finding new infestations? The draft EIR says that both California agriculture and native forests are at risk if the moth is not eradicated. What definitively, scientifically confirmed damage has the apple moth done in the state of California? Is there any damage over the last 2 years beyond one scientifically unconfirmed instance of damage in one blackberry field? What specific scientific evidence is there from California or anywhere in the world that native forests are at risk from the apple moth? Given the lack of damage of the last 2 years, what specific scientific evidence can CDFA
30 seconds.
cite that damage from the apple moth will increase? I would also like to know exactly what are the total budgetary expenditures for each year of the program starting in 2006 through long-range planning into the future. What is the total of federal monies? What is the total of state of California monies? How much money will go to the pesticide companies? How much money is budgeted for salaries of all staff directly and collaterally involved in the LBAM program? How much money is allocated state and federal for ongoing PR and advertising? What percentage of CDFA staff time is spent on protecting Californians and growers from the consequences of the quarantine? Thank you.
Thank you. I'm Michelle Fisher. I'm a resident of San Mateo. This is my daughter, Lena. We were not preparing to be here tonight. In fact, we were involved with the Stop the Spray organization last year when you all were talking about dropping nasty little pesticide microencapsule bubbles over all of us. And I and a bunch of other people geared up to put a stop to that. Thought we kind of got through this, thought we made our point. Have discovered yesterday when I got the email that we're back here again. And so I can't promise I'll be eloquent, but I've scribbled some notes which I hope will make my point. I'm speaking to you tonight to let you know that if you persist in trying to solve a business issue,
at the expense of human health and environmental sustainability, you will discover that the number of voters that you see here tonight are really only the tip of the iceberg. I, for one, I might have been involved in 1 or 2 things in the last 10 years. I've got a lot of things to do. I run a business. I got no free time. But this got me. I went to a farmer's market, and I think this kind lady told me what was happening. And it's important enough to me to drop everything and make sure that I got involved in running the San Mateo section, and shortly thereafter this all went away. But my point to you is, you probably hold these kind of hearings a lot, and you see a lot of, I would say a small number of really dedicated people. But what you're not seeing are all the people like me out there. And there are parents, physicians, scholars, lawyers, and business people like me that you will see organizing large public events against this. You will see enough outcry that what's going to happen is you're going to end up back at the drawing board to come back with a more conservative solution. In the end, that's how it's going to go. The people of this, especially Northern California, we care about organics, we care about our environment, we care about breathing. I'm asthmatic. I was exposed to permethrin fly spray in the barn where my horse is. I got asthma. And it hit my face, I broke out in hives all over. It never occurred to me that these things could be an issue, but I'm a believer. And I'm also a really good organizer. So I just want you to know that we can all suit up to do battle over this issue, and you can choose to push forward this initiative that is going to end up being a futile proposal, because I'm not having it. I can tell you there's a lot of people spending what's left of our state's really dwindling funds on fighting this, and it's not going to go anywhere. And that money could be spent in public schools, on teachers, on textbooks, on a lot of other things that this state needs. And if you as the government could kind of see yourself as a whole group and work collectively, what are our top priorities? I tell you, if you look at our top priorities, the moth isn't even anywhere near it. So please, because I'll tell you, I'm back. And there's a lot of people like me that are back, and this isn't going to fly. So, please,
Hi, I'm Judith Elliott. I'm an herbalist. I live in Unanimous. I'm a cancer survivor. I was on chemotherapy for 7 years. I had injections for 6 years, and oral medicine, and that was preceded by a lot of radiation and radical surgery, from which I'm still disabled. My treatments have given me a number of illnesses over the last 30 years, but I'm still here, and I'm here because pesticides are partly responsible. And my mother, we lived on a farm when I was a child, and my mother applied pesticides to our vegetable garden. I helped. My mother is suffering from Parkinson's disease at this time, and I'm looking to face that. Now, I agree with so many of the points that many of these people have made. Checkmate isn't part of what is being looked at, and there's been a lot of time spent on describing. But if you look at the new pesticides, or the alternative pesticides which are being proposed, I have it written, but I don't have time to read them all to you. But there's neurotoxics, there's other mutagenics, there's carcinogens, there's asthma, there's so many human health dangers in all of these. Bt, Bacillus thuringiensis, is not, it's approved now for organic gardening, but for one thing, it does not degrade. It only degrades in sunlight. So if you spray a lettuce field with it, the underneath side of the lettuce retains it. It doesn't wash off. It clearly states in the description of on the instructions on the container not to ingest it. There are so many warnings on containers for all of these pesticides that show how extremely toxic they are to the skin, to breathing. So, you know, our young friend from Asia, this is what makes me just weep. The idea that we are applying chemicals to people inadvertently and innocently, supposedly. I mean, you just got a job, right? But this is causing people to have birth defects that are hideous.
30 seconds left.
And, you know, there's just no excuse for that. And there's also, with all of the documentation, all the scientific studies that have been done by leading authorities on the fact that this moth has been in this state for over 30 to 50 years. It has done no damage that can be really assessed.
Time.
Thank you very much.
I'm Valerie Chasty from Albany, California. I'm a rancher's daughter, Northern California, 1950s, so I can appreciate the perspective of agriculture. When I was young, I played for hours a day in the irrigation ditches, oblivious to the herbicides, pesticides, fertilizers, and my father was proud. He even used aerial sprays. Decades later, we have a lot more information about what that means. However, as a society, we haven't even begun to understand each of the thousands of compounds created annually, much less how they interact with each other.
Speak into the mic, please.
My father died when he was younger than I am now in 1980. We were told this massive heart attack was a blessing in disguise because he had metastasized cancer throughout his body, would have had only months more to live. This was a surprise. There was no cancer in the family. My mother too ended up with cancer, no cancer in her family either. She was one of only 2 survivors of the group of 10 women in her literary sorority on the ranch. Everybody else died of cancer in their 40s and 50s. My mother did pass from Parkinson's, which we were told, not surprised, by Harvard researchers found out that a significant portion of Parkinson's is from pesticides. I have no doubt that my own being susceptible to a serious illness in my adult life was because of my immune system being harmed by the pesticides and herbicides and fertilizers when I was a child. Most Americans don't realize the immune system is not the foundation of one's health, it's actually the endocrine system. The endocrine system is the master controller for everything in the body. Pesticides and plastics, and I was incredulous to read that the proposed aerial spray would be done with fine plastic particles, create imbalances in the endocrine system. Picture a lock and key system. The proper hormone key fits it to the right hormone lock in order to carry out the body's needs to function. Frighteningly, pesticides and plastics mimic the keys and fit right into the hormone locks. Then the actual necessary hormone is prevented from connecting, and the endocrine system cannot function properly. My parents both got diabetes. There was no diabetes in the family. I've gotten it myself. Cancer and diabetes are not the only bad possibilities from hormone disruption. There's also obesity, plus endocrine disruption in children is particularly harmful. I cannot eat most foods, take almost any medication, or have an easy time with any chemicals. I've been told that my lifespan is shortened. I'm in a catch-22 where I cannot take the medications I need for the illnesses I've developed. I do think it's from the ranch chemicals. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Michelle Darby, followed by Lauren Schiffman.
Hi. I'm from San Francisco, South San Francisco. Hi, everybody. I just want to say that I didn't want to come here tonight. I don't know if anybody else wants to come here, but I don't want to have to be here. I don't want to have to disrupt my life with my family, raising my kid. I'm sure other people have their lives they don't want to disrupt either. To have to protect myself and my family and my city and my community from my government. Yeah. I'm sorry, something is seriously wrong, but I'll tell you what, if that's how it's going to be, I'll disrupt my life again. I don't wanna, but baby, you're gonna have a mad mother, a mad citizen, and a lot of us. And I think if you thought the last time was a big shout out against this pesticide, this time is gonna be more. Because this is absurd. After all of the science and everything that we know, and believe me, we know. We are informed. We know about this pest. And you know what? If you want to start us down this environmental path of fighting the pesticide assault that we have on all levels, we'll fight the other ones too, because we know there are more. Oh, yeah. And we know they're bad. So please, take into account that if you wake us back up, we are going to be wide awake, and we are not going to let this happen. That's right. That's kind of all I have to say.
Hi, good evening. I didn't expect to speak. I don't have anything prepared. I've been scribbling notes. My name is Lauren Shipman. I thought I should stand up and represent Richmond. I don't even know where to start. I just want to thank everybody for being here and to say that I agree with everything that's been said. I was here last year with my 1-year-old, and I couldn't bring her this time because she'd be running around creating havoc at 2. But you know, it seemed as if last year when everyone was here protesting and asking questions, a lot of science came out, and a lot of scientists concluded that the LBAM is not a threat. It has been in California for decades. So I was surprised to have to come here again tonight. I'm sorry. No, the fact that all this science exists, it seems strange to me that none of this is represented as part of the non-action alternative. It seems as if, according to these science, the non-action alternative is to deal with a pest that has not been doing much damage with other integrated management ways. So I'm here to say that there are aspects of the EIR that trouble me. I know we're talking now about a new spray. I'd like to know, has it been tested? Has it been tested for the long term in terms of the effects on soil, on people, on water? Many people have said the overall treatment with all of these different aspects, including a spray, including an aerial spray, a ground spray, substances on telephone poles. These things have not been looked at and tested as a whole. I think I'm done, but I'm glad to be here. Thank you for being here, and I hope we can figure out a way to just all agree that there's a better way to deal with this situation.
Hi, my name is Jesse Teeger, and I was here last year as well. I have to admit that I stepped away from the issue, and I have not reviewed the EIR and the findings, but I basically agree with everything that everyone has said so far. I did a lot of reading on it in the past year. I'm concerned about my own health. I have immune issues from health issues over the years. I don't want my tax dollars spent on poisoning me against my will. There's so many levels that this is wrong. It reminds me, if anybody's seen the movie Blue Vinyl, and the things that were uncovered about vinyl and the production of vinyl. And it's like they used to put it in hairspray and tell people that it was harmless. And you know, it's absurd. We have no knowledge of what these chemicals do to us. And I don't trust the manufacturers of these chemicals, and a lot of them are untested. And it's absurd to spray something on this scale. The other thing that I want to bring up is, I did some reading on this last year, and it was kind of like the thing that comes up for me is follow the money.
Yeah.
That's right. Follow the money. The pesticide, somebody mentioned the Checkmate, the manufacturer of Checkmate is also owns was he an almond grower or something? He also gave large contributions to Schwarzenegger, it's my understanding, several $100,000. There's conflict of interest all over the place here. And my understanding, and forgive me if I'm wrong on this, but a lot of this grew out of quarantines that we imposed on other countries about this moth, and then it came back and bit us in the ass. When our farmers then couldn't export their products because these other countries retaliated for these quarantines. So, it's a lot about money and certain farmers not being able to sell their products. And so this is politically and money driven. This is not, based on anything that I've read and anything that I've heard, based on fact and science and true harm to agriculture. My recommendation is follow the money and learn where, what's driving this, because it's not as it seems. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Jay Haley. I live in Oakland, and I don't have any prepared remarks, but I have to say something. One thing about this environmental impact study that comes to mind is are these modalities safe that are being suggested, and what is the proof that they're safe? And the answer is no doubt there's no proof that they're safe. California and the chemical manufacturers don't have the money to do studies to prove that their chemicals are safe. In this country, chemicals are innocent until proven guilty, so basically we need to find proof that the chemicals are harmful, otherwise they'll just be applied. And are these chemicals harmful? Well, 99.99% of the people are not going to react to them, so they're harmless to those people. So 1 out of 1,000 people maybe will have some respiratory symptoms or some problems, and maybe those are just coincidences, which is apparently how they handled the incidents in the Central Coast the other year. Basically, all of the health complaints were chalked up to being coincidence. And then maybe 1 out of 10,000 people are going to have serious problems. Maybe a kid will find some of these pheromone treats that are being left out for the moths and has some kind of serious reaction. Maybe other people are going to react to it more. I've got some dear friends that are chemically sensitive, and I've seen them react to painting, to spraying down the block. There's a lot of chemical activity that goes along that affects a lot of people really seriously, and everybody else just goes along life, goes through life as if nothing's going on. But so maybe there's 1 in 10,000 or 1 in 100,000 who is incapacitated by something that doesn't affect everybody else. So, but in an area like the Bay Area that of millions of people, that means a few thousand people or a few hundred people are going to be incapacitated. Maybe a few hundred people will have to leave the state or go to Arizona or something. And those aren't disposable people. But there are people that can be ignored according to the scientific knowledge these days. So anyway, you've got to pay attention to those people.
Thank you. Hello. In 2007, my neighbor came and told me that they had sprayed pesticides over Santa Cruz. Her brother lived down there. And when I heard about what happened to the people in his neighborhood, how they all had asthma and skin eruptions, and I thought, wow, I'm sure glad it's not us. And next thing I knew, CDFA was saying, well, they were going to spray the cities. And the area where I live, well, I live in the country. I live in a forested area. I am surrounded by organic farms. And all of the West Marine community, we eat organically. We choose not to have chemicals in our food. So when I found out that you were planning on spraying us, I got involved. There's no way I was going to be sprayed, or my friends, or my community. And that's why I'm here. I became a full-time advocate against your spraying us with chemical pesticides. No, it's not right. And it doesn't even take a scientist to figure out that it's not right to spray toxic chemicals on people or the environment to get in our water that we drink, the air that we breathe. It's not right. And please, change your course. Find a way to do your work that's not hurting people. Please.
Hello, my name is Unique Phillips. I'm here from a large agricultural county. I live in Sonoma County. I'm a third-generation Californian, and I proudly support our California agriculture as the granddaughter of citrus growers in Fallbrook. I recently testified at Senator Flores's LBAM EIR hearing, where 3 highly credentialed scientists spoke, and in summary, they claimed that LBAM need not be eradicated. CDFA was invited, but took the decision to not attend. I also attended the Sacramento and Sonoma CDFA EIR hearing, and the Watsonville location was yesterday. At all the hearings, with the exception of a few people in Fresno, all the people, like here, were opposed to this program. Highly recommend that you watch the hearing, which is on the website at www.stopthespray.org. And that was filmed thanks to the 2 great individuals that are here, Mary Beth and Jim. They've dedicated a lot of their time on their own dime. If anybody wants to donate any money, sorry Mary Beth, I have to say, feel free. I want to let all of you know that the last sentence of my testimony in Sacramento at Senator Flores' hearing was that I would not allow CDFA to enter my county of Sonoma and use their LBAM eradication pesticide program on our citizens. And I came here today, not to speak to you, CDFA, because you've heard enough of me, and I've been working on this from day one, from the time that the people of Santa Cruz got sprayed. But I came here to speak to all of you. And I came here to strongly urge you to make the same statement to your elected officials, to CDFA, to the governor, and urge you all to keep talking and not stop talking to your friends, your neighbors, your children's teachers, and your work colleagues, and don't stop until CDFA tells us that the program is eradicated, and that they apologize to the people of Santa Cruz and Monterey. It is only then that you, CDFA, will regain our respect. of us, of the elected officials, of the farmers, of the ag commissioners, basically all of California who are laughing at you. I am happy to connect with anybody here. I have my card. I have to leave fairly soon, but I will leave my card on the front table. Don't take it, just write down the information. We should all connect. As a New Zealand entomologist stated to me on the phone, I believe that the CDFA scientists need to be replaced by the community scientists. And what I say to you, CDFA, is help us so you can regain our respect, eradicate this program now. Thank you.
I'm Isis Farrell for East Bay Pesticide Award, also known as Don't Spray California. For the record, our collective is opposed to the LBAM program, 100%. Since you're limiting public comment time, we'll be submitting our full comments in writing. They will also be publicly accessible on don'tspraycalifornia.org. Please check it out by September 28th. Here are some of our questions that we'd like to have you answer in your EIR at this time.
Since LBAM is doing no actual damage, on what evidence do you base your prediction that private pesticide use would increase if we don't allow you to apply pesticides yourselves? What is your responsibility for preventing such increase in pesticide use? Is the Hungry Pest advertising campaign, thank you, by the USDA, the federal agency overseeing this program, more likely to encourage or discourage private pesticide use? How many farmers and growers have been required to either destroy their crops or apply pesticides for LBAM who would not have used pesticides otherwise? Isn't it the NAFTA trade agreement which forces quarantines and trade limits on both sides of the US border because of LBAM and other organisms? What are the rights of farmers and growers in deciding whether they want to cater to a trade agreement which has as part of its goal the spread of a larger pesticide industry? NAFTA has its own pesticide label. Yeah. Wouldn't reclassification of the LBAM to a Class C pest solve quarantine issues? Whose responsibility is it when monocropping causes the vulnerabilities that invite so-called pests to flourish in modern agriculture in the first place? How much crop loss is incorporated into your expectation of marketable harvest, and how much of the crop is expected to feed the surrounding ecosystem? What is the economic impact of the LBAM program on organic and biodynamic small-scale farms? How do traps determine whether what is found in them is doing any damage, is likely to do future damage, or whether it is in balance with the local ecology? Why does CDFA continue the trapping program, which uses the same chemical that injured hundreds to thousands in Monterey and Santa Cruz, even though the rest of the pesticide program has supposedly been suspended pending this EIR process? What are the exact chemical ingredients, including so-called inerts, carriers, adhesives, insect dyes, or other additives for every part of the LBAM program? What are the synergistic effects between each chemical, each product, and any previous chemical used in each of the locations of the LBAM program? Are any of the ingredients endocrine disruptors or other chemicals which provoke a non-monotonic dose response where damage increases as the chemical exposure decreases? Which products contain chemicals that have not been fully tested for whether they cause cancer or endocrine disruption? Is your risk assessment process, where do you draw the line? In your risk assessment process, where do you draw the line between acceptable and significant risk? Specifically, how do you quantify the value of a person's health? Is it an acceptable risk if 15% of the population is at risk of negative health impact? According to the National Academy of Sciences, 15% of the population is chemically sensitive to varying degrees. How about 1 in 8 children? Is that an acceptable risk? That's how many children are vulnerable to chemical exposure because they have asthma. What are the implications of saturating entire cities with pesticide fumes on the Americans with Disabilities Act, which requires public access to all of us, including infants, elders, immune-compromised, and other sensitive populations? And our last question for the day, referring to page 91 of the USDA Emergency Programs Manual, how do you define socio-political opposition that would prevent this program from going forward? Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Raven Levy, followed by Helen Kozo-Riz.
Raven Levy, Oaklander, asthmatic. I had the great misfortune to grow up downwind of a Monsanto plant. One thing that nobody here has brought up is the fact that not only are you going to be saturating the cities of California with chemicals, the agricultural areas, the forested areas where you don't think anybody lives, but you're going to be poisoning people where this stuff is made. This is a human rights issue for everyone who works in a plant, lives near a plant. I'm not going to die for agricultural profits, and no one should be asked to. As a taxpayer, I am pissed off that you would waste money like this. People are starving and crops are being plowed into the ground. I'm outraged. People are unemployed. And instead of finding some non-toxic way to give them work, to let them take care of your so-called problem in an ethical manner, you're going to kill us. I guess that's better than paying the disability claims. I guess that's better than paying for unemployment. Somebody called you people puppets. I have no doubt you are well compensated puppets. It's immoral what you're doing. And it's stupid from a financial standpoint too. When I can get the work to be, I'm a heck of a bookkeeper, okay? If, as this program, and the boss has been framed, I think we're all clear on that now, laws are guilty till proven innocent. Chemicals are innocent till proven guilty. Pyrethrin on every telephone pole? Look, the gypsy moth traps around town are making me sick. They're within reach of children. Just down the street, they are within reach of children in front of a pediatric dentist office. You are killing people for profit. Stop it already! Enough!
My name is Helen Kazoris, founder of Stop the Spray, Alameda County. We stand opposed to CDFA's LBAM eradication program. According to the draft EIR, quote, there are no significant and unavoidable impacts associated with any of the program alternatives. At its face, this is a preposterous conclusion which defies rationality. The so-called program alternatives include chemicals such as permethrin, a harmful neurotoxin that is classified by the EPA as a possible human carcinogen. BTK and spinosad contain undisclosed inerts which are often more toxic than the disclosed active ingredients. Disrupt Bioflake LBAM is an untested pesticide containing synthetically manufactured pheromones and other undisclosed inert ingredients dispersed in the form of plastic flakes. Recall that CDFA claimed Checkmate was safe before they aerially sprayed Monterey and Santa Cruz counties in fall 2007, which resulted in 643 illness reports, including 2 children that almost died. Checkmate was not tested for safety before it was sprayed. The aerial spray was essentially a grand experiment. To date, CDFA has not claimed responsibility for the harm done during the aerial spray campaign. On the contrary, CDFA still continues to say that there was no link to the aerial spray and reported symptoms. CDFA has violated public trust. To spray without consent is a violation of our human rights as defined in California's Constitution, which guarantees citizens the right to safety. CDFA USDA eradication teams terrorize farmers with LBAM inspections. LBAM is not a demonstrable threat to crops, but farmers are afraid to speak out in fear of retribution. In fact, CDFA's 2008 report to the legislature admits that DNA testing for LBAM is inconclusive. It states that further research funds are needed to, quote, develop an effective DNA fingerprint and identification technology for LBAM. In essence, farmers are forced to spray with chemicals and destroy their crops based on questionable LBAM finds. Quarantines, not LBAM, hurt our farmers and growers. Dr. Daryl Chambers, retired entomologist and pheromone development specialist with USDA for over 45 years.
30 seconds.
Quote, I am extremely disappointed as a professional in what is essentially a smoke and mirrors effort to conduct a program that is in no way what it purports to be. LBAM is beyond the veil of eradication, and it's really not a problem anywhere that it's been well established or endemic. The technologies of pheromone application and SIT as reported to be applied here cannot work. This is an issue about trade. It's not about eradication. Stop the Spray Alameda County supports the scientific findings in the Upton-Harder LBAM reclassification petition. The LBAM eradication program is not safe, necessary, or effective and is a waste of taxpayer dollars. We demand CDFA halt the program immediately and issue a formal apology to the people of Monterey and Santa Cruz counties who were injured by the aerial spray. Thank you.
Good evening. Thank you for giving us this chance to speak. Thanks to everyone who came out. This is nice to see, but horrible to have to do. My name is Constance Barger. I am president of the Environmental Health Network of California, a 20-plus-year-old organization representing the interests of chemically injured people, an organization that owes its existence to something called the MedFly, or more specifically to the fact that aerial spraying was done because of something called the MedFly very many years ago that got an awful lot of people sick, an awful lot of whom are still sick, and an awful lot others of whom we've watched die over the years. And I will tell you that is not a pleasant process. We will be making formal written comments about this as we did at the earlier stages of this. In short, we stand in solidarity with everyone who has said that this EIR is inadequate, this draft EIR is inadequate, and in that it does not address scientific opinions that are at odds with those that CDFA has found to pay attention to in response to what we've done. Beyond that, I'd just like to say that when it comes to the differential impacts on specifically sensitive populations, that hasn't been taken into account at all, and it needs to be for an EIR to be adequate, particularly when it comes to the issue of these new generation pheromone-based pesticides because of the way in which they are designed to work. They can only work if they are out there at the levels at which they are deemed to be effective for months and even years on end during the mating season. For anybody who is sensitive, that means that we are being pretty much forcibly evicted from where we live. And if we go to someplace else and LBAMs are found there and it's in this state, then we're being forcibly evicted from there too, with no legal recourse, no compensation, no nothing. And if you think that that is an easily mitigatable consequence, you are sadly mistaken. There really are 15% of us in the population. Mostly we're in the closet, mostly we're quiet about it. But you try to evict us from our homes with no compensation. You try to make public places into some place that we haven't got access to, that we're entitled to under the ADA, as I just said. And I assure you, we will not be quiet. I will just close by saying that we've seen a lot of angry public meetings in the media recently. We had a doozy up in Marin just last night. And it occurs to me that there were a lot of people at those meetings telling people that they didn't trust their government to do their health care. And we got a lot of people at these meetings and have had for years saying that we don't trust our government with certain aspects of our health too. And if loony right and loony left ever for 5 minutes take their guns off each other and retrain them on the profit centers that are driving this program, those profit centers may actually have something to worry about.
Is there anyone who has not spoken who would like to speak? In that case,
This concludes the public hearing. I do want to remind you,
I spoke, could I just share this? This is the back page of the front section of the Chronicle yesterday, and it has a red fly here, a half-page advertisement by U.S. Agricultural on how it's going, and you can call them up on the internet and get their little pitch on how nice it is. All these programs, sprays and killing all the insects. Half-page advertisement, not free.
Is that the Hungry Pest program?
Chronicle, yes it is.
Thanks.
Hungry Pest.
Who paid for that?
We did. Shameful.
Thank you.
Shame on you. Shame on you. Shame on you. Shame on you. Shame on you. Shame